everyone. Welcome. Good morning, good afternoon, good night to some of you. Episode 254. We are going close to around that number of 256 episodes. So
That will
it's
be
very close.
That might be the Christmas one.
Maybe,
The
yeah.
256th episode will be the Christmas one, Marcin. Wow.
Yeah, might be.
Oh no, not
Time
quite.
flies. Time flies.
Yeah.
But yeah, another Friday, and today we are joined by Niels, straight from umbraCo HQ. But you are not in HQ right now. How are you, Niels, doing?
It's I'm at home and I'm good at home, so thank you.
I'm really admiring your office. You've got a retro Macintosh there in the back. Does it work?
Yeah. Yes. Well, I haven't tried it, but I've been told it's working, and then I kept it because I didn't want to fail.
I'm very, very jealous. That's awesome. And then the Lego.
But I'll try it out one day.
Very
Yeah,
cool. Very
amazing,
very
NASA.
Thank
Cool. How are you guys
It's
doing?
in a
How's your week
basement,
so far?
but, yeah, I'm really excited. Yeah, we're finishing off a feature, so I'm relieved and looking into what the future will bring with this new feature.
This has been what, 6 months of work at this point for you, or maybe
actually I lost track of time, but around that time, yeah.
Amazing.
But that means only good things, because if you lost the time track around that, it means like you've really enjoyed that. So now it's just a time for grabbing the kudos and again aligning, fixing, improving. We all know that it's not the end of the road for everything, and yeah, we are excited as well to see and use what you guys come up with in the recent times, and of course we'll be talking about it today as well.
Indeed.
But so, Callum, as it's December, probably we can start from talking about the December things, because finally it's also there.
That's not what I wanted to show. No, you can tell I'm not usually the person driving this.
We decided before we went live that today I'm taking a rest from switching screens and switching links. So
Yes.
we are
Anyway,
improving. But
24 days in
24
Umbraco.
days.
It's back,
Yay.
and it looks different, very different. I think they've had their current design for at least 5 years, but it's likely a lot longer than that as well. And this new fresh one looks awesome. I think Christian Steinmeier is the man to thank for that. It looks really, really lovely and slick. And I understand it's upgraded to V10 as well. It was a V7 site before. So no, this is awesome. But kicked off with 2 articles so far. We've got a fantastic accessibility focused article from Danny, and this follows really nicely on from his talk at umbraCo Together and at the DK Festival a couple of weeks back. So really, really great article. Go read it. It just shows how there's some simple little things we can do to fix web accessibility without like the majority of the issues can be fixed with a few very simple actions. So that's a really great article by Danny. And then we have a great article as well from Niels Swimberger, who's done his an integration with Twilio, where he works, and with umbraCo Forms to send an SMS. And I saw him working on this during the umbraCo US Summit back in September or October. So yeah, really great article. And I think something that a lot of people actually need to do fairly often as well. So
yeah, indeed.
Yeah.
But Callum, if you can go to the main page of the whole series from this year, I think here, following the kudos to Christian and the team out there, if you scroll down, it looks like an advent calendar. I have this fun every day right now with my daughters in the mornings when we are opening this day and trying to find, and I literally have the same fun going to this main page every day and seeing this new article. But there, besides articles, there is also a graphic following it up every day,
which is AI
Wall-E,
it's
AI generated graphic. That's exciting.
It's not Wall-E, it's DALL-E. Wall-E's the little,
DALL-E, yes,
little cartoon robot.
Yeah, that's true.
As well as a tech tip from Sebastian at the bottom of every article as well. I don't know if there's a way you can see the previous tech tips, because that's maybe we can. Yes, we can. Look at that. Ditto clipboard manager and the and papercut SMTP as well. Oh, small bug there maybe. I don't know. They're both on the first. But this is really, really cool. I love to see how 24 Days has evolved this year.
And still, if it's the same surprise for authors about the day when they are going live, it will be really interesting also for them to follow.
I know that in recent years they've leveled up in the team that's kind of behind making 24 Days happen. So I know that that Lottie's a bit involved in, you know, like I know the Scrift team this year are involved in reviewing some of the articles as well. So it's maybe more collaborative than it's ever been. Clearly, a lot of work's gone into it, but I also believe authors get a small heads up before their article's going to come out.
Okay.
It's not a complete surprise.
So community is maturing as well then, and the community activities then. That's exciting. But yeah, we are of course going to forward to follow and highlight everything what will be happening during the 24 days in Umbraco. And for all of you who might know or might know it still, go and check it out and follow Twitter account that tweets every day about the new exciting stuff there. And yeah, share your feedback and interact with the authors and help them also improve their knowledge too. Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, yeah. So 24 days has happened, but we're only 2 days into that, so there's not too much to cover yet. Maybe in the coming weeks we'll have some of the authors or even the organizers on the show. But what has been going on this week, I think most exciting, most anticipated, is umbraco 11, right? It is out. It's finally here. However, I was going to say, in fact, I said this to Sebastian the other day. It's kind of boring. Like, in the best way. You were talking about maturity there, Marcin. But from a technical point of view, it's running net 7. I upgraded a couple of sites yesterday, just small, quick sites. There was one breaking changes. I had to add a using statement to a class, and it all got working again. It's kind of boring. Yeah, it's easy. It's what we've come to expect, stable from umbraco HQ. However, there is something exciting in there, isn't there, Niels? That we're going to talk about. We'll share the link to this article.
Yep.
There's an unboxing video with yourself, Sophie, and Bjarke and Runa, where you go through all the new features. The blog post summarizes some of the cleanup work that's been done, the performance improvements, etc. But the really exciting bit is this new block grid editor, right? So this is the kind of grid 2.0, shall we say, which I remember back in 2018, maybe 2017 at the retreat. There was a conversation about let's build the grid 2, and here it is. 5 years later.
Here it is. Yeah.
Do you want to tell us a bit about it then, Niels? What's the motivation, the process that's gone into building this?
Oh wow, that's a big question. But yeah, for sure. So an immediate motivation is that we have the property editor called the doc type grid editor today, and we don't want to carry that over into the new front end of V13. So we have to get rid of that. But another motivation is to bring the great architecture of the block editors into a grid layout ability editor. So where to start about that? I think what's great about this new editor is it enables new ways for structuring content and to present content, and thereby how you can edit it. And that's really great.
Excellent. So as you said, this is leaning on the work that's been done for this concept of blocks, and then trying to make a grid that fits really with how people have actually been using the grid in recent times. I know that I can say, and Marcin, you'll have worked on similar sites where clients implement everything in their layout and their visuals and everything in the grid, and then decide they want a rebrand or to change something, and they've got to go through and change everything everywhere, and it's kind of annoying and messy. The block grid gives you a little bit more flexibility, but also control rules over how your page is laid out. And I think whilst it can be made to look very pretty and like a WYSIWYG editor, it's also very much structured and more of a layout builder, shall we say, if you want it to be as well. It can shapeshift in that regard.
I didn't want to call it what you see is what you get editor, because you can maybe get close to that, but you're not forced to. You can pick and configure everything from a list to a what you see is what you get editor, and choose the spot that fits for your project.
And am I right in saying that because this is based on the same block list technologies, we can swap an existing block list like structured row-based layout to be a new block grid very easily?
Theoretically, yes.
theoretically.
That was my question, because I think a lot of also people who started enjoying the block list editor approach right now might want to explore the grid editor, Glidbrock's powers, and try to migrate content over or recreate content over. But what I wanted to just add to the previous sentence is like that we have an editor that is flexible and really exciting for the editors, but also for the developers, who can now have more control over this data thanks to blogs and of course the document types, element types behind the scenes. So yeah, that's very exciting.
It's all great talking about this, but should we look at it? Because
let's have a look at it.
I think so.
So what you see here on my screen is a simple project that's using the block grid editor, but there's not much of a difference from this towards the list. We have a block here, and we will be using the blocks to represent parts of our website. And we can add more blocks like we know, but that's not really giving us any of the new features. We'll start seeing the new features of the grid coming alive if I'm adding a block that has a set size. And what that enables us to do is to have blocks going next to each other. So in this way, we are starting to form a layout in some way. We're at least composing our content in ways that are different than just a one-dimensional list. We are sort of working in 2 dimensions. And yeah, this is how the grid block grid editor looks out of the box. And another thing it can do, which maybe in some eyes can be seen as 3-dimensional, is that we can make blocks that can contain other blocks. And what that enables us to do is to make fixed layouts. So we'll now start using blocks to build layouts that other blocks can go into. And how that is done is this 2-column layout block has 2 areas defined, and each of these areas then works as a layout on them on their own. So within the left and the right side, I can add more content. And we can even drag content from the outside into it. So that's sort of the main features of the block grid editor, how we can structure things. And there's actually no limitations to how we can compose this. You can put as many areas you want on a block, and you can put other blocks with areas within these areas. So there's a lot of flexibility here. Yeah. So
is it only accepting the editors from the block list editor, or if, for example, I will have a block list editor below, above, will I be able to drag and drop from there to block list?
Sorry, no, but you can copy paste from it.
That would be awesome.
We have the clipboard functionality that you probably already know from the list, and we can actually copy blocks from the list to the grid. And vice versa. So pretty cool. So instead of diving into how this is set up, I want to take you somewhere else and show an example website that we've made to show you how this can be even more immersive for content editors. And actually you can go get this project. I know, Callum, you said you will share the link.
Yes, we have. This is on GitHub, isn't it? And it's
yes. It's also a NuGet package. So
so someone can just install this and get going with a nice block-based grid site.
Yes, it's also in Paul's package scriptwriter already. Yes, so you can.
And I think it's on the new marketplace as well. But
oh my goodness!
Correct me if I'm wrong.
301.
Yeah, and the project comes with a front end, as you can see right here. There's some content, and there's actually 2 pages. And if we go to the back office of this, we'll see a similar visual representation here. And this is made with the block grid editor. Actually, if we go back here for our front page, we'll see that this top here is 1 block, and then we have other blocks going on down here. And that's what we can see here in the back office. Here is a hero block, And the way this is done is by using custom views, but it's also using a custom layout style sheet. So the block grid editor comes with a default layout style sheet that you would have to copy and use if you want to render it on your front page. But you can also take this and customize it, add stuff to it, do as you want with it. You can even change it from using CSS grid to using Flexbox, but I'll cover that in a future story. So what we'll see here is a hero, and down here we have a block with two areas similar to the one we saw before, but with a custom view, so it looks like what we know from the front page. So here we have content in the left side and we have content in the right side, and I can easily grab these blocks and move them around to fit what I wanted. Oh, let's do it like that. And that's the most obvious usage of the areas, to create these fixed layouts, a 1-column layout, 2-column, 3-column, or what needs your design has. But another example of what areas can do is visible here in the hero. Here, the hero contains a headline and an image. We have the ability to set some colors. But in this project, we also want content editors to be able to put a call to action in the hero. And typically we could have done that by adding some optional properties right here. But instead of doing that, we decided to make the call to action as another block and enable that to take part in the hero through an area. So as you see right here, there's an area for extras. And in this one, I can create a call to action button. Let's just link to something here. If I can spell. I don't know you. Okay, styling is maybe not so great for this long one, but and what this enables our content editors is that we've separated this data away, and what I can now do is I can easily take my call to action and maybe put it elsewhere if that's what I'm wishing for. So we now have some flexibility I don't think we've ever seen before in umbraCo, where we can start taking our website design and breaking the components, or transforming the components into blocks, and that can both be major blocks, these content blocks, and even some minor blocks like this call to action button. And that
you say as well, sorry, never had this something like this in umbraCo, but actually we've never had something as visually good looking as this as well. I think in the CMS, like you've got a really clear representation of your content, and depending on how what you're using the block grid for, kind of dictates what you'd maybe want to do with it. You had your example a minute ago that was a bit more structured and, let's say, more structure oriented, more data oriented, whereas this is now more visually oriented. So you've got a fully flexible thing that you can just tailor for exactly how you're going to use it. With the grid, as in previous grid, it was always still very visual, very WYSIWYG, wasn't it? But this can be both, I think, is really huge.
Exactly, yeah, and that's important to notice. You don't need to put the effort into creating custom views that looks exactly like your website. You can get far by just showing the image that's part of the data, though this is maybe not presenting the image the exact same way. If we had a gallery, it would maybe be more beneficial for the content editors to just see the images as part of that gallery as small thumbnails, instead of having a full image navigator. And I think you can get far as well just by taking some snapshots of your design and putting them in as static images in your custom views. Yeah. Okay. Yep. Yeah. What maybe comes to mind as well is that now, because we are having custom views, the UI that we orientate towards is more this context bar, this blue context bar. Where if we looked at the other example, we had a similar representation as we knew from the block list editor. But now that we're replacing the representation of the block with something looking like the web page, we instead are using this bar to orientate what is the components that we're looking at. And we can actually use that bar as well to bring focus towards a parent component, which can be useful if we have something that are in the way of navigating to this. Imagine we had these blocks going all the way up to this tight corner. Okay, I'll log in again. And in that way, we can use this bar to go there.
It's like an inspector, right? It's like you are inspecting
so.
the elements from the tree or DOM in this case, right? That's how I see it right now, because it's very handy to know why, for example, some elements behaves like this, because maybe there are some settings in the higher tier. And what I wanted to add earlier when you were showing it is like it exactly looks right now like a very well structured content, and thanks to these areas we can really structure it in the context and then really also tailor the behavior of the elements based on the maybe context where this element is placed, as Warren even stated, based on the color, for example. But then behavior can also change. Yeah, really nice.
So maybe a different example that would be nice to touch upon is happening on this other page, where we have some blocks that represent these cards. And these cards can both be in this medium size and this small size. And by configuring our cards to have multiple sizes, we have enabled this little scale handler, and we can now drag a block to decide what size it's going to be presented in. And in this way, I think we made it as well even easier for content editors to arrange their content for their desire. So that's quite handy.
You can see how that could be insanely powerful for an editor, can't you? That I'm going from what is now a kind of a large with two smaller elements, and just being able to then reorder those, drag those around is really, really powerful.
Yeah. And of course, this could then come together and become a very crazy layout editing experience. But we really have abilities to limit what editors can do with this. And in this example, this card can only be spanning 3 out of 12 columns, 3 out of 12 columns, or 6 out of 12 columns. So it's not a completely madness of freedom we provided here. So,
which, by the way, used to be a huge problem with the old grid, right? You weren't able to do contextual stuff or have so many rules. It would be more of a, okay, if you want to do that, you've now got to delete all of that content and recreate it or something. Whereas here, it's flexible. You can shapeshift to be how you want it to be.
Regarding those abilities, and I guess most audience is developers, it might be interesting to look a bit at the data type configuration, right? So I think it would be good to, okay, so this is the first time I guess some is seeing this. But as you notice, it's similar to the block list editor. We have our blocks listed here, the block types that we have configured, and we have some general settings that are somehow alike, but we also have some additional ones. One is, for example, how many columns the layout is based on. And this is default to 12, but you can go with any size that fits your project. And we also have the layout style sheet, and this is the button that is good to notice if you are going to render this on your front page, because through this link you get the default layout style sheet, which you should download and put in your front end.
Which, as I understand, is shipped, but it's embedded within the Umbraco.
Yeah, so
RCR.
it's not.
You can't easily access that file.
Exactly, it's not accessible from the front end, so you have to put it there yourself. That also gives you a certain confidence that you own that file, and if you're going to change it, it will not be changed by updates and so on.
Yep.
And yeah, let's try to jump into the configuration of a block just to see what we can do with these areas. Here we have the hero block that we worked with before. It's based on an element type called hero, and we can just have a short look at that and see here we have those properties we saw before. And then we have some permissions to control where we want to be able to create this. And And this one we only want to be able to create in the root of the layout. We don't want the hero to appear within other blocks and within areas of other blocks. So this has been ticked off. A block is fitting for the full width as it comes out of the box, so we don't need to look for the size options for this one. And then we have something that's quite new for pre-value editors. Actually, we have tabs going on here in the top right corner, and we have one for the areas and one for advanced stuff. And if we look at the areas, we here have a grid editor on its own, because the areas assemble a grid, and then each area is another grid on its own. Sorry for the interception. And the hero here has a small area that I've named left, and it's spanning 6 columns. We can see that by hovering the little scale handle here. We can add as many areas as we want, but let's go ahead and edit this area to see what we can do about it. We have to define an alias. We can use that later in code to target it if we want to style that differently, or if we want to insert it in a different place, because actually we don't need to render the areas as a grid. But okay, that's a topic for later. Let's get down to the limitations that we can do. So within the validation group here, we can set the amount of blocks that we allow within this area. And maybe here in the hero, it would be beneficial to say we maximum want one thing to go in there. What we also can do is we can override the blocks that are allowed to be created here. So by leaving this empty, we'll go with all the blocks that are allowed to be created in areas. But we can override that and do something completely different. We can even pick blocks that are allowed only in root, or we can pick blocks that are not allowed anywhere. So we can go with whatever we want. Here we are adding entries defining what we want to go for. And these are the blocks that we have in our pre-value editor. And here I could go for the call to action one, and I could enforce that we need one of these, but maximum 3. That would not work well with this one, so let me remove that. That's one thing we can do. We can also pick a group of blocks. Let's, for example, say I take the content group and allow minimum 1 from that group or maximum 3. And I can even specify to force that one of these needs to be a call to action block, and I want to enforce one of these, and then there needs to be 1 to 3 of the content group. Does that make sense?
I think that makes a ton of sense. And I was going to just say I mean, I know that during the build here, I gave a bit of feedback as well about some of these concepts, this idea of groups and being able to, then categorize the types of block that you have, especially with as this will get more and more complex. If you're building a bigger site, you may have 20 or 30 different types of block or components you could have. So being able to group them is fantastic. I love the new configuration experience. I wish some of these things would come over to the block list editor as well, from the kind of advanced tab or those sorts of things.
It's open source, Callum.
I know. I guess
but that would be really nice if we could make that happen. Yes.
I guess that the exciting thing here is it's taking something that could be relatively complex and could get infinitely more and more complex the more variation and options you add to it. But it's been really nicely simplified and boiled down, and I can very quickly understand what you're trying to build here without much effort. It's
cool. And maybe I just have to show how easy it is to add a new group. I'll just make a new group. I'll put a name here, and I can drag one of my cards here. The blocks here.
Do those groups pull through when you're picking blocks on the other side?
Yeah, let's go have a look at that. So let me create here. Okay, so here in the root, I only get these blocks. Those are the ones that are allowed to be added in the root. And we have 2 from the layout group and 2 from the content group.
Lovely. So
It reminds me lead pages and all the kind of layout builders that has for example categories for various sets of blocks. And previously we had this challenge when it comes to grid editors, that when there were too many of them, we are unable to effectively use them, find relative ones. Maybe again, as you've said, it's open source, it's possible for having feature requests, and I'm sure that there will be some kind of ideas like filtering blocks by category here, or searching.
I actually think we have the filtering option. So this is the same UI as we know from the block listed. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, if there's more than 8 blocks, the filtering will appear.
Okay.
Wow. Okay. That's great. I mean, you can see how you could have, buttons, and it's 3 different types of call to action button, or you could have media, and it's an image, a video, a gallery, whatever you need. It's going to make it way nicer for editors to find what they're looking for as well. So
or different version of about us blocks, etc. And that's where I see the huge potential of using it like that, or groups for it. But that's exciting to again group it and make it easier to find.
Yeah. Otherwise, it can easily. And Callum,
London.
You're living in the city. There's another block maybe to highlight here called inspiration block, and the reason why I made that was to make it clear that you're not enforced to render the areas as a grid. So the grid that we set up in the pre-value for the areas is just our default way of rendering areas, but we can actually override that and render our areas in a different way. And what this block does is that it has two areas for where they can come an image in, and then we have a contextual area. And what you see here is that this little area is actually behind this bigger area, and it's not rendered with CSS Grid. That's completely controlled by the custom view of this inspiration block. What more to say about that? It's just pretty neat. But with that, we could, for example, in the hero here, have an additional area up here for adding a logo or other features.
And all of it is a part of this example solution that we are looking at. And as also Warren mentioned, it's highly recommended to really install it and try to explore it, because it highlights, I presume, most, or if not all, the powers that can be achieved with the current functionalities, right?
I'm not sure I would know all of the powers actually, but here is a set of features at least, and we've tried to demo how they can come into play. But because it's quite free how you can compose these features, I guess you could go do something that I was not aware of, at least.
I was going to say, looking at all of this, like this looks beautiful and a really, really nice editor experience. So well done. I'm assuming it's you that worked on this, but if it wasn't, well done to whoever did.
Thank you. It is me, yeah.
I was thinking this is probably going to end up, we'll see loads of really, maybe give it 6 months or a year, people doing some fantastic examples on client projects where this is really visual. And I guess there's going to be some Umbraco Award nominations or winners or something at some point for creating a truly excellent editing experience through the block grid. Sorry.
Please, if you are doing anything, it would be so nice to see. And
inspire now it's the time for us as a developers, agencies, and users to really use it and find the new use cases. I think again it's like as Callum stated, a Grid 2.0 chapter where we can really explore it more in depth and also define more from the code perspective. You've mentioned, for example, having different style sheets, different layouts, different implementations, also based on the grids, more strongly typed approach to also dealing with the elements within the grid. So that's all to be explored now, and we'll hopefully see a lot of more improvements and new features, new powers into the grid. And Sean already wants to make a PR.
Idea. This was discussed previously, like a kind of infinity mode or something, or a focus mode where you could just hide for this editor specifically, hide everything around, like even hide the top bar or something, and have just that
focus mode.
That
focus
would be so
mode.
cool. Yeah,
It would be really cool.
Yeah.
So
because you can easily spend all your screen estate with just this single editor. So
Yeah. That's
that would
amazing.
be nice.
Cool.
Maybe
Niels, is
another
there
thing to
anything
just
else
show-
what you want to show? Yeah, sorting.
Yeah,
That's
well,
exactly.
maybe I just want to highlight there's a sort mode. Though
Yeah.
you can actually drag and drop these big blocks around, it might not be the easiest for you always. So you can go to the sort mode and you'll get an experience more similar to the default rendering of these blocks.
There was a question from on the chat about this view exactly, like to toggle or be able to control the view. Let's say for more hardcore developers who don't want to see it, I just want to debug it or test it. That might be again a nice feature request. We've seen this on the Canon's presentations on Umbraco together, that it is possible through the sort mode. But what about maybe a toggle for having this view like a setting for either a user or editor, something like that. Just to again maybe save some distractions based on the content, because not everyone is visual driven. I feel like it's a good idea, but again, as a future option and as an alternative, there's always this sort view here to explore.
Yeah, hopefully at least it can help you out if you're ending in some situation where it's hard to get things out.
Yeah, I just imagine some of the backenders or Umbraco developers writing style sheets to render it here in the preview. It won't always look that beautiful like now in your example. So just in case, I want to fall back to blocks only.
The plus side is you can just load in your front end style sheet as well. So let your front end developer build a lovely front end that the client's very happy with, and you can pull that style sheet in here, right? And reuse those styles, and they're scoped per block, so it's all nice.
Exactly. Yeah. So the style sheet can be scoped per block, but there's also a scope of the whole editor, and that's why, which is different from the block list editor, that you can load in your own style sheet here, and that would apply to the full editor, but not the individual blocks. If you want to use this exact same style sheet again for each block, you would have to go in and pick that same style sheet again. But that's a fine solution. If you're doing traditional web development where you probably end up with one style sheet for your whole website, then this is the way to go. But if you are in the future, you might be doing web components for your website, and that will be a much simpler and easier future for you, because your custom view would just implement your single web component, and the web component itself would encapsulate and control its own styling. So all this is much easier for you if you're doing that, and then the backend developer don't need to touch the front end.
And more solid in general as well for the responsibilities when it comes to this comment. Amazing. Thanks for the demo. There was a question also about external style sheets, but I think that it's not something what is supported.
You have to put it, I think, on your desktop. Yeah,
it's a file.
I was just thinking about let's say loading Bootstrap default styling from somewhere, right? And just to present anything. But
I think you can use the import statement in the root of your CSS file. Then
that's
go ahead. Yeah.
That's this modern inception. Cool. Thanks, Niels, for this demo. And as a side to action and a call to action, not side to action, play around with the grids. Everyone who was very curious about it. Maybe one thing to be mentioned here and to remind us all that the grid editor, block grid editor, was moved and postponed to be released for a version 11, but it will be also backported to the version 10.4.
Which I'm told is going to come sometime in January. Sorry, Runa.
Okay, Callum.
Another axe on the way, damn it.
Yeah, it will come at some point into V10, which is awesome.
Yes,
I'm also very thankful that it was delayed from V10.3, because I think it gave you a lot of time to put a lot more polish on it, and it looks really solid. So
at least this example website is now done and together with the release, so that's really helpful.
Yeah,
we have
And of
There
course,
was a lot of questions about this 10 point and why to, and if we should wait for 11 to have this block. I think it's worth to mention that it will be backported. No excuses to not explore it now, even on the version 11 as it was said. And then it will be improved on the way for both versions, I believe, right?
And maybe I can. Sorry.
Ken's talk is recording on the on YouTube as
Exactly.
well.
And I just wanted to highlight that because Ken is a backend developer and he's setting up a website with the block grid editor. So that's showing you don't need to be a front-end magician to succeed with this.
Yes.
He wrote very beautiful CSS. I can just say that. Kudos to Ken. And no, big kudos to all of the people involved in creating, testing, and releasing it. It looks amazing, and now it's time to play around with this. And I know a lot of people were waiting for it. So yeah, good work and good demo, Niels, once again.
Thanks to everyone bringing feedback.
We should also, whilst we're talking about your good work, Niels, talk about this background.
Oh yeah.
Not too many people have seen if you've not upgraded or at least created a V11 site yet. But this is on the login screen and it's on the upgrade screen as well. So this is the new, I guess, could you call it inspired thoughts or inspiration background? What's the theme?
That's up to you as the interpreter. You have your own interpretation of what this means to you.
But you made all of this, right? And pieced every single shape.
Well, to be fair, a lot of these symbols are recognizable from some of our existing artwork. But yes.
But this you showed me at Photoshop or something the other day with hundreds
of layers,
all kind of placed in this pattern to make this design. Looks great.
And the vision is we want to get back to having a new login background in all media versions. So we've sort of forgotten that for a period, but now we want to get back in the game. So expect something new as well for VE12.
Yeah, and there might be some interpretive dance on the code garden, analyzing these thoughts.
That would be fun.
Cool. So yeah, this is really nice.
Of course, we have the link to that repo that you mentioned. It's all open source. Go check that out. Give it a
start. You can contribute if you want.
Yeah. Exactly. So that's really cool, and it's I guess semi close to a kind of starter kit, which we at least a modern starter kit, if you will. It's not.
Well, there's some things that you would be missing. It's not as accessible as you wanted. It's not responsive. It's not. There's many things it doesn't do. There's not an image cropper, and it's not using the focal point and so on. But the reason why we're cutting that out is to make the code easy to read.
Yeah.
So you can get the core concept of how you build this, and then you would have to implement the other things yourself.
Excellent, very cool. Alrighty, well, let's move along from the block grid because it's not the only thing that was released this week. I joked last week when I was talking with you, Niels, and Runa, that maybe we should be having a funeral this week for our umbraco, because actually at this point our umbraco's now just a forum and some old documentation in the old packages section. But going forward, we've got now the official new umbraco marketplace has launched. It's out of beta, and this is the go-to place to find all things umbraco package, I think. So if you look on you've got the obvious popular packages. You can click into them, and it's all a very lovely UI. Information here that's all populated from a JSON file that you can store in your GitHub repo or on your own website. You can have nice interactive screenshots, and this is really, really cool looking. I've managed to this week. Let me see. Can we go on the recently added? Am I still there? Possibly. No, it's been too long. But I have released some updates to my search extensions and super value converters, all for 8, 9, 10, 11. Those are on there. It took me about 10 minutes to do this for each of these packages. It was really nice and straightforward. Some metadata, pulled my README in, all sorts of things. It was very straightforward. So this is great. I think I'm not. I tagged mine as search, and it was at one point the only package showing up in the search section, and it's now not showing. I've no idea why. There's an issue tracker for this as well, which Andy has been very receptive to feedback on. So if you want a new feature or you find something a bit painful when you're implementing your updating your packages, go let them know, and I'm sure they will fix them. But this looks really cool, and I understand it's all built on web components as well. This is all using Lit, so it's all the stuff that will be in the new back office or component wise. Do you know any of the history behind that, Niels?
Yeah, well, I haven't looked at the code, but I know they're using a few components from the UI library.
Okay,
so
awesome,
trying
very
to
awesome. It's definitely a very different visual look that we've seen from other umbraCo products before. It's maybe a bit more fun as well.
Yeah, I think it's trying to stand out so you can differentiate it from the rest.
I mean, it's very clear. You can get to the information you need very quickly, and it's. I'm very impressed. The docs, as I said, has died as well. There's this lovely banner that Sebastian has put a load of inline styles on to add the our source. But if you need the V8 and previous docs, they are still on our where you expect them to be. But docs.umbraco.com now has everything you need to know about things. The search is kind of good, at least better than the one on our. Navigating around articles is way easier as well. So I think it's a big improvement, and you can still contribute in the same regular way as well. So those are the three massive changes that have come from HQ this week: block grid, plus the new login screen. That's something to get excited about. The community marketplace, and also the doc section. Big week.
That's
not
HQ.
only. Yeah, not only
not on HQ.
Contentment Lee's updated for V11 as well. He said nothing's changed, basically. When he put this on Twitter, it's like, it's the same contentment you know and love, but for V11 as well, which is cool. Well done, Lee. Jerome's released his OpenID Connect example. We've got another dependency injections extensions library that's now released for V11 as of literally an hour ago. There might have been one more that I probably lost, but a few packages. As I said, I updated some of mine. I've taken an interesting, maybe a different approach as well, where I'm multi-targeting for V8, V9, V10, because I'm able to easily target the .NET framework versions. V11 is the last time I'm able to do that reliably for an umbraco major. So I've now set my kind of required version range for umbraco, the dependency, as from 11 to 13, because we're not going to be able to target V12. V13 will be net 8. So it's kind of exciting though to finally have some packages working on V11 or from the get-go as well, with relatively little effort. So what else was there? Oh, I had some events and things.
Yes, events. There are some virtual events. There were, of course, a couple of events happening this week. But what's upcoming is the Community Day.
Yes.
And there is a call for proposal.
Closing today? It was closed. It closed yesterday, actually, or the day before. But we've reopened it. We had a kind of little organizers meeting yesterday. We've fleshed out the schedule quite a lot, and we have a bunch of sessions that will be announced next week. So we're planning to announce the full lineup middle of next week. But if you've got 2 more days to put in any last minute sessions that we'd like to squeeze in, we're trying to get some important Microsoft people. We're trying to get some really nice, interesting talks. And I know we're going to have over 12 hours of packed umbraco content on the 19th of January. So go submit something if you have something to share. It could be anything from a 15-minute lightning talk all the way up to like an hour's long workshop. And I understand that, Niels, you'll be also hopefully doing kind of hands-on with the block grid as part of that too.
Exactly. Yeah.
Awesome.
Hands-on workshop with the block
look forward to. I promised Lottie I would mention this.
To see you there.
I promised Lottie I'd mention this one. The Umbraco virtual meetup is the idea here. Is it's now got a meetup page, and we're going to try and have some more efforts around virtual Umbraco meetups going forward. Next Friday from 3 p.m. CET, Lottie's going to do a kind of, maybe not a Friday bar, a meetup, if you will, online, and make this hopefully a more regular thing, but a festive version. So come along if you'd like to have a chat with Umbraco people. I've already signed up. A couple others have. It's a kind of a low pressure event. Don't have to do some work whilst you're dialed in or something. And the final thing we wanted to talk about events-wise was next week. There is an Ask Me Anything with Kim. This is on Tuesday, 3 p.m. on Zoom. You can join in, but you can also ask your questions. At the umbraCo London meetup last night, there was a clipboard being passed around saying, come up with some questions for Kim, which I'm sure will be interesting given that people had a bit to drink. But let's see. So yeah, Tuesday, 3 p.m. and put your questions on Twitter if you'd like to ask Kim anything. And then the final thing we wanted to talk about was a poll. Marcin, you found this one.
Yes, it was interesting from my perspective because there is a lot of still questions about updating umbraCo from version 7, 8 and onwards. And now Dan also released this poll if people will be upgrading the V10 projects to V11 and .NET 7, or they will stick with version 10. And when I voted, there was more votes towards sticking with V10, what surprised me personally.
I believe that's still the case. I voted that we will be trying to upgrade people as regularly as possible. For me, it's like it's not a difficult thing to do. Like it as I said, it took me 10 minutes yesterday to upgrade a couple of our sites. One minor breaking change. We're just trying to bundle upgrades in with any major or reasonably major change we do on a site. We'll just get them to the latest versions. That said, of course, you can't right now, if you're running on cloud, upgrade to V11 because there's a problem on the Azure side, not on the cloud side. Yeah, maybe you can't do that. But it's interesting to see people's strategies. People are taking very different approaches. I know a lot of people have maybe complained in recent weeks that the release cadence is too fast for them. And I disagree, personally. I think it's okay. It means we get new features. And you don't have to upgrade, do you? You could just stick with the LTS versions. I think from talking with Philip and Bjarke, that's sort of the intention, that most people will stick to LTS, and the people who want to be at the bleeding edge or want that new feature can upgrade to the next majors as and when they come. But probably it's the same amount of effort. It's just a bigger upgrade once a year or every so often, or smaller upgrades several times a year.
But I wanted to share this link just to ask people for more votes, more context, and more data, basically. So please, if you haven't voted yet, just do it and let Dan and everyone else know what is your approach to upgrading. And yeah, that was all for what we collected for this week. Yeah, if we missed anything, only of course, if we missed anything, let us know. We will mention it next week. So yeah, again, thanks Niels for this overview and this demo.
Thanks for having me.
I'm sure it will be rewatched a lot. And please, for you all, as Niels mentioned on the secret catalog there, please subscribe, follow, and share this episode amongst your colleagues and friends. Thanks, Niels, for that.
No worries.
For the rest of you, we will of course be joined in the upcoming weeks, following 24 days. Be sure to follow, help authors to get reach with their content to as many umbraCo interested people as possible. And yeah, enjoy the rest of the Friday and the weekend ahead, and see you next Friday, everyone. So thank you, everyone. Thank you, Niels. Bye-bye.